ultimately, that's the only way you're going to know what's in the CBD, if you can actually read the lab reports.
Hi babes, Lady Silverstone here, and welcome to my podcast, where we're trying to demystify cannabis, one conversation at a time. In this episode, we're scratching the surface of having a new cannabis interest and of the existing bias against menstruation and female health with our guest today. Crowned as Miss Sweden 2014, she now has her CBD brand along with a career as an actress and a fashion model. She's our first Swedish babe here on the show, so let's welcome Camilla Hansson. I hope you enjoy it. How are you?
I'm great. I'm in Sweden. I'm really happy to be here, as I was in London before, and it was quite a strict situation there. So I'm really happy to be back in Sweden right now.
You went there, 2 weeks ago or 1 week ago?
I came here about 1 week ago, and I think I'm planning to stay here for quite some time while the situation in London is under lockdown.
Okay, yeah. How long do you have any information, by the way, about how long it's going to be locked down? Like, what is Mr. Boris saying?
Well, he did an announcement recently saying that beginning of June, they're going to start opening up some shops. And then in July, he will start opening up some entertainment, some of the entertainment industry. So restaurants, etc., which I thought was quite late, actually. And then he also said anyone coming in by air will have to be quarantined for 2 weeks, which is not going to be,
Yeah, so you don't want to go to London or in England only for vacation, because in any case you need to be in quarantine for 2 weeks then.
I don't see it being any vacation abroad this summer, because no one's going to go for vacation for 1 week and then come back and sit in quarantine for 2 weeks. That just doesn't make sense. So
I didn't even think about it that way. I was just thinking like of other people going. But yeah, even if people from the UK want to travel to, let's say, Spain, if they come back, they need to self-quarantine again after all this time of quarantining. Do it again then for 2 weeks. I mean, that's how will they keep track on that though?
They haven't announced that yet, so I'm not sure if it's going to be a strict, if they're going to be very strict in terms of checking it, or if they're just going to tell you to sit at home for 2 weeks and hope that you follow, their rules. But I'm not sure. They haven't announced the date when the quarantine starts, and they haven't announced how they're going to keep track of it. So I'm not sure.
Okay, yeah. Good, it's so tricky. And I was thinking like the other day, I'm like, because some people are criticizing Sweden a lot. Some people are like, oh, wow, it's amazing how it is in Sweden. But I do think that's like some countries going to be like, oh, okay, are we really going to accept like a lot of Swedish people traveling to our country, because they feel that it hasn't been, maybe even though it's working in Sweden, but it does have a lot of criticism against it, obviously.
I think it did before, but I really feel like Sweden is the country that's handled it the best. I must say it is. I feel it's really the best place to be right now. So I do feel very blessed to be Swedish and to be able to be here.
Oh, I can imagine. I mean, it must be so different to be able to, because of course you still have restrictions. You still have that maximum 49 people in a place where, I mean, you cannot really be in a restaurant that has a lot of seats and stuff either, right?
People are sitting in restaurants, but they're sitting outside, basically. That's what I see mainly. People are sitting outside.
Okay.
In the outdoor seating, yeah.
So you haven't been living in Sweden for 13 years.
That's correct. Yes, I've been going back and forth, but ultimately my home was London for 13 years.
Okay, so why did you move to London?
Well, I moved to London when I was 18, and to be honest, I didn't really have a big plan at the time, but I just really felt that I had to live in a big city where there was opportunities, and I was young, I was very adventurous. I wanted to live this big life, and I just felt a little bit limited being in Stockholm. I just felt in my intuition just told me so strongly that I should go to London. So that's what I did. I didn't really have a plan or anything, but for sure it was the best decision I've ever made, because London has been really, really good to me.
Did you have a plan already when you moved there? Like, okay, I'm going to study this, or I want to work here or there. Like, did you have a plan, or was it like blindly you just moved there?
I had zero plan. I knew absolutely nobody. I remember I arrived and I stayed in one room with, I think, 2 or 3 other girls.
Oh, wow.
I had no money. I had nothing, basically. I had nothing.
Now when I think about it, I'm like, I would never do that today, you know? But when
I
you're
would
young...
never do that today. Now I need comfort, and these things.
Same,
but
yeah.
When you're 18, that's a good, that's one of the good things. You don't need that much, and you can take risks because you have nothing to lose, right? You haven't built anything for yourself yet. And you know what? I just thought the worst thing that happens is I just book a return ticket and I go back to Sweden.
Yes, exactly. That was my thing as well when I moved to Paris. I'm like, the absolute worst thing that can happen is that I have to book a flight back to Stockholm and I just asked to go back to my old job, I mean, that's the worst thing that can happen. The other stuff will only be, you learning... Yeah, you're getting experience for life, actually. Whatever will happen to you in London. And look at you stayed for 13 years and here you are,
Yes, no, for sure. You got to go for it, in life. And yeah, like I said, in that situation, the worst thing that happens is you just go back. I mean, there's so many people who are not living their full potential in life because they're scared, and I think you will never fulfill your truest, highest expression of yourself and full potential in life if you choose fear, right? So I always try to ignore my fear and just go with it.
Yeah, but how do you do it? Because that is what stops people. People want that. They're like, yes, I'm gonna, go over my fear and stuff. But it's so hard. Like, I think people don't know how they're gonna actually do that,
I think it depends how you look at the world as well. I look at life being quite short, and so, but also it's a training thing. You train yourself to go against it, basically, like anything, like anything you can train yourself because I don't know, that's it. I just know it's there. It's an emotion that's there, but I've just trained myself to go against it and ignore it, basically.
So what was the things like? Did you meet things on the way that was so scary that you're like, shit, is this the time when I move back? Or what am I going to do right now? How am I going to overcome this? And how did you do it? Because it's scary to be in another country sometimes.
For sure, especially in the beginning, like I said, when you have no money. I mean, I remember at one point I didn't even have money to buy water, because in the UK you can't drink tap water, but you're not really meant to. So at those stages, you start to question things, and then maybe you talk to people who are like, oh, why are you here? London is not a good place, etc. But yeah, I mean, look, I've had many moments where I had no money, and then I had times where I had money, and then again I had no money, like that, because I am someone who takes a lot of risks. I think when you are like that, and when you try to live life fully, you will have very extreme ups and downs, rather than when you play it safe. So yeah, for sure, there were many times where I thought, but the thing is, I've never had any backup system in my life. I never had a family that would then bail me out or this or that. And when you know that you don't have anything to fall back on, that really motivates you.
It does.
Yeah. So when I see other entrepreneurs who are very successful, this is not always the case, but it can be that a lot of times they actually have nothing to fall back on. So failure is just not an option. You just got to keep going, because no one is going to be there to save you if you don't make it. So
true. Surely you have that as well. Like a lot of friends or people that you meet over social media that says, oh, wow, I would also love to move to another country. I would love to get these experience. I would love to leave Sweden or whichever country you're living in at the moment. And I always give tips and tricks because I also left when I was very young, and I had no education more than my high school education. I didn't have anything specific for me to boost a new life, let's say. and I had 2,000 euros. If even that, I didn't even have 2,000 euros. That was like my start of starting my new life in Paris, you know, which is crazy now when I think about it. But so many people feel that like, no, but I need to have this big savings of money and I need to have done this and that before. I'm like, but you're never going to get anywhere if you always have these things thinking that I need to have, I don't know, 6,000 euros before I move somewhere. I need to have these specific sets of, I don't know, whatever it might be before you move. Because I just feel then that, but I mean, in life, you just have to do those steps anyway, whether you have a lot of money or no money. Of course, you need to be able to buy a ticket somewhere and maybe 1 or 2 months of rent, but you can't get it wherever you are. Do you see what I mean? Like, I feel that like everyone feels that there's this big obstacle for like moving somewhere, which I really don't feel that it is, you know? But again, I've been taking all of these risks as well. So for me, I don't see it as an obstacle. I just see it as life. I'm like, yeah, okay, too bad. You're going to start off very poor. You maybe have to go and I don't know, work at the restaurant with a really shitty hours and very bad pay for a bit. But hey, at least you moved, you know, and you're now on your way getting to a place where you want to be. And I think that's it's different for everyone for sure. But risking stuff is sometimes very, very good. It takes you somewhere.
Look, if you don't, without risk, there's no reward. So
exactly. Well, what happened from you were 18 then to now basically? Like what were the things that happened throughout all these years? I know it's a lot of years to talk about, but like what was the main step? What was your first job, for example? What was your first, you know?
In the beginning, I just took any job. So I remember I worked in a nightclub actually for 3 months, which a lot of people find shocking.
Why?
When you're 18, well, you know, I don't know, because now I hate nightclubs. But when I was 18, it wasn't the worst idea in the world, because it actually was a good nightclub and I met a lot of people there, and that's how I started to, you know, get integrate into the society and get to know people. So that was my first job, but obviously luckily it didn't last very long. It was only 3 months. And then I just had some various jobs. Like I worked in real estate and I worked in retail for a bit, like a clothing shop, but I was always very entrepreneurial. Like my dream was always to be an entrepreneur, and so I always tried to set up some sort of business. And I remember I tried to have this travel business, which didn't really work out. But I had this idea I was going to bring people from London to Sweden, and you know, like for a weekend and show, like basically arrange everything for them. And so, I guess I just had all these different entrepreneurial ideas, which I tried. A lot of them didn't work out, but then I always had this childhood dream of being Miss Sweden and competing in Miss Universe. And so I had a boyfriend at the time, and I was very lost. I was always very lost because I always wanted to find my path in life, right? And I've always been someone who's like, until I find that, I'm always going to be lost. So I was always very lost. I was always searching, what am I meant to do? What am I meant to bring to this world? And so at the time I had a boyfriend, and he said, well, look, you're pretty enough. You should try to compete in Miss Universe. And so I did. And I won.
Did you win Miss Universe or Miss Sweden? Like, what is the difference between all of those? Do you have to be Miss Sweden first and then do Miss Universe, or like, how does it work?
Yes. So you compete. So first you compete in your country. So for me, it was Sweden. And then when you win in your country, then you compete against the other countries in the world. So I think it was like 88 other countries. So you represent Sweden, and you could compete against the other countries in the world. So I went, So that's Miss Universe. And so before that, I won Miss Sweden.
And then how long later is the Miss Universe competition?
It varies. I think for me, I probably had 6 months or something to prepare.
You must be nervous. Like, what do they base it on? Do they base on like only appearance and beauty, or is it also like what you represent, how your personality is? Like, how do they do this?
Yeah, so I mean, it's most people think it's just about looks. It's not just about looks. I mean, it is a beauty pageant, let's say it as it is, but it's not just about looks. I mean, they interview you. It's also about your achievements in life, your contribution. Are you doing any charity or any philanthropic work? And just, so I would say they have a pretty, they do an assessment of you, you as a person as a whole, right? So but it's everything from your fitness level to obviously how you look to your, like I said, like your personality, your achievements, or if there's an interesting story about you, but also obviously like how you perform on stage, because Miss Universe is all about entertainment, and so it's about how you walk and your your charisma and that kind of stuff. So I did prepare for 6 months because I had to get in shape. I had to learn how to walk on stage. I had to prepare my wardrobe. I had to prepare questions and answers during the interview. And I mean, I left my job pretty much straight away when I won. And then you get sponsorships, so you have to work to get sponsorships and that kind of stuff. So it is kind of a full-time job if you take it seriously.
How did your parents and friends and people around you react when you said that, hey guys, I'm gonna compete in Miss Sweden?
My parents, they were fine with it. I mean, I only have my mother, to be honest, but yeah, she was fine with it. Like, she wasn't for it or against it. She was just like, I mean, she knows she can't tell me what to do anyways. I mean, I kind of left when I was 18 and I didn't finish school. So she's like, yeah, whatever you want to do. But but they came to the final, so that was really lovely to see my mother and my sister there. And I mean, look, I mean, I don't know really. I mean, my friends, I mean, they were supportive, I guess. I don't really think about it too much, to be honest. I know what I want to do and I just do it, kind of thing.
That is really nice. I mean, that's the only thing you can do anyway. Because if you listen to what other people would say, you wouldn't do anything, because everyone has something against whatever it might be. Because, I mean, even just like with cannabis, I think doing something like Miss Sweden, I think both of these things have a stigma against it. I mean, there's stigmas against everything, obviously, from a certain small group of people anywhere. So it's something that you have to be very... think what you think, I'm fine, this is what I want to do. And that is what is very inspiring, and how you will finally be in a place where you might be happy, because at least you're not thinking of all these other comments and all these other opinions about certain stuff that you do. I mean, what I'm doing, for example, and you having a CBD brand, I mean, both of us know that, especially being a Swedish person, doing that is a huge stigma, and it's a huge... risk as well. It's a huge risk, which is, it is what it is, but it's also very exciting because we're doing it because it's something we really believe in and something that you and I purely do want to do from ourselves. So how long ago then was Miss Sweden and Miss Universe? Did you win Miss Universe as well?
No, I didn't. I mean, to be honest, Sweden hasn't won that for a long time. I mean, it is also to do with sponsorships, I mean, Sweden is not sponsoring Miss Universe with a lot of money at the moment. So it is a little bit of a business at the end of the day. But I'm not going to blame it just on that. I mean, but no, I didn't. But it's definitely, one of these things that'll remember forever. And it really changed the direction of my life. So you're there for about a month, and it's pretty intense. I mean, I think you wake up at like 6 a.m. and then you go into hair and makeup. And then there's usually like some sponsorship thing or some photo shoot, or there is rehearsals for the final. And I mean, it's a very, very, how to say, it's not a very natural environment to be in, because you're constantly in a competition with others, right? And you're constantly put under pressure, and you're constantly expected to perform. And, it's not your schedule, it's their schedule. But you know what? Miss Universe was fabulous. Like, they had such a big budget. It was fabulous. Like, they had so much money to spend on the competition and to look after us. And was as glamorous as you might think it is. It was like being in a movie. It really was. I mean, when you compete, it's because you feel a lot of pressure, etc. Sometimes it's hard to just, take it in and be in the moment. But that whole year for me was definitely, just amazing, just to be able to live my dream like that, and have that purpose. I mean, look, how many people get to live their dreams? I mean, at least I got to live, luckily I've been able to realize a few, but this was certainly a huge one for me at the time.
What happened after that?
Well, then it's like you're on this real high, in life, because you think you're this Miss Sweden person, all this, and then it's over. And then you think, well, how am I going to top this experience now, and what am I going to do, because obviously I left my job, and I was thinking, like, if I go back to my job now, what was the point of even doing this, if I'm just going to go back to where I was. So I definitely had a few years after that that I was really, again, a bit lost, not sure what to do, how can I now move forward and do something even greater. But what I did initially was I set up a coaching business, because I felt that I had all this experience with, how to present yourself, So I actually set up a coaching business, and it was kind of like a modeling pageant school and an etiquette school as well. Because, like I said, I was taught so much about image and how you present yourself. So I did that for a few years. My heart was never like truly in it. So after a few years, it was a good way for me to start working for myself. But after a few years, I sort of gave it up, and then eventually, I started Camilla Organics. Well, I started working on it after my trip to Bali. Actually, we talked a little bit earlier about being in Bali. So in August, I started really thinking about it seriously. And then it took me probably 8 months or so. Basically, we launched during Corona, but also during Endometriosis Awareness Month, which is in March. So we launched end of March. So what's that like? Is that like 2 months ago now? 3 months?
Oh, so it's super recent.
Yes, it's super recent.
Sorry for interrupting. I hope you enjoy listening so far. Please check out my account Lady Silverstone at patreon.com so I can continue creating cannabis content for you. How was your approach to cannabis first when you lived in Sweden? Because that's a very hard climate when it comes to cannabis. And then, did it ever change when you moved to a big city such as London? I mean, that's when my view of cannabis changed when I moved to Paris, for example. But how was that mental trip when it comes to the relationship to cannabis, first of all?
Well, to be honest, it wasn't exactly like that for me. I just remember, to be honest, I don't know if anyone will believe me, but I've actually never tried smoking weed.
Really?
I've never actually tried. No, I never actually tried that. I'm not saying I wouldn't, but I haven't. But no, what happened was there was a friend of mine who happened to be a doctor, and obviously CBD was on the rise. So he actually came to me and said he wanted to start a CBD business, and he gave me some CBD. A strong full spectrum CBD. And what happened was I took it, and then I went back to London. This was in Denmark. I went back to London, and I remember, because I was really struggling with terrible menstrual cramps. But the kind of cramps where you go to the emergency room, it's like, I don't know, it's even hard to explain, but from a pain level, I would say it was like 9 out of 10. It was very bad. I was really lying on the floor screaming, and I did go to the emergency, but there's nothing they can do. I mean, all they can do is to tell you to take some painkillers, because at the moment there isn't anything in the medical community where they can cure that, right? So in the end, I stopped going to the emergency as well, because I knew there wasn't anything they could do. So, but of course, I've studied natural medicine, I've studied nutrition. So I always go for the natural way whenever possible. But of course, in this case, when you think you're going to die out of pain, I did take, painkillers. But to be honest, it didn't even help me. It didn't actually help me. And of course, I tried acupuncture and all these things. Nothing ultimately helped. But and one day, just by chance, I was at home and I really felt this pain. And I remember that people had told me that CBD can help with pain. So of course, no one had ever mentioned, taking CBD for menstrual cramps. But I thought, well, if it helps with pain, I'm in a lot of pain right now. So why don't I try it? So I took it, and literally like within 20 minutes, it was just gone. It was just gone for the rest of the day. Like it was literally a miracle. But of course I thought, oh, but maybe some time passed. It wasn't actually the CBD. So the next time I had my period, I was in my school where I studied natural medicine, and I remember this horrible pain coming on, and I just thought, oh my God, I mean, how am I even gonna get out of this classroom? Like, how am I even gonna get home? I'm in so much pain. And this girl next to me, I saw that she was taking some CBD earlier, and I just thought, my God, my luck. So I asked her if I could have some, and she gave me some. And again, like 20 minutes later, it was just gone. Like it was gone for the rest of the day. Like literally like magic. And after that, I started thinking, there is something here. I think it's not just like a coincidence. And I couldn't find anything about it online. I mean, I know now when I've looked into it more that, I know that the Chinese were using cannabis to treat, menstrual cramps back in the days, and Queen Victoria was apparently using it, etc. But there really was no one talking about it at the time, as far as I could find, So I just thought, this is strange. Why aren't we talking about this? There's nothing out there that can help us, really. I mean, nothing that really helped me anyway. And there's no cure for endometriosis and menstrual pain. And so, of course, there are things that can help you, like hot water bottle, etc. But when you're in that kind of pain, none of that really gave me any relief. I mean, I was in so much pain, basically. So I just felt so compelled to look into this, because every time I took it, it just made the pain disappear. And I'm not saying that it will do that for every single person that takes it, because obviously we know that people, our endocannabinoid systems works differently. I mean, people might take up, CBD works differently for different people. But what I can say is that, I started looking into it, and I just felt so strongly that I had to start talking about this and actually bring a product to the market for this specific issue. So I honestly felt like, it was like a spiritual calling. I felt that. And, I am a very spiritual person anyway. So it was just one of these things. So I formulated a product basically, which has 15% broad spectrum CBD. It has herbs in it, dong quai and wild yam, which also helps with menstrual cramps, and a specific terpene blend. So these ingredients, they all work together in synergy, which is, as you know, it's something called an entourage effect, right? So which makes the ingredients together is way more effective than just taking CBD alone. And honestly, I mean, I've given it away to a lot of women who have pain. People are buying the product. It's really helped me. It's really changed my life, because I don't have to be scared of my periods anymore, and it's really, really helped a lot of women I know. So it really is something we need to talk about, I think, because it's a natural product, first of all, rather than taking painkillers, which we know damage your gut lining, etc. And not only that, for me, it was just way more effective as well.
I remember since I started taking CBD on a regular level, so not only when I have, because usually when I have my periods, I mean, I had exactly like you. I've been into emergency room so many times, and in the end, I just walk out of there with a little bit stronger painkiller that I cannot find in the pharmacy, but that they gave me. I'm like, this is for nothing, and every time it's the same thing. It's nothing that they can really do. And if they say that, okay, so you probably have endometriosis, but then the only thing we can do is to go in with the keyhole operation. And for me, I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that, even though like when I have the pains, and it's even sometimes outside, maybe you have experienced that as well. It's even sometimes outside when you don't have your period, but maybe when you're ovulating, that sometimes like your knees just like bends because you get such a sharp stab in your ovaries. I mean, that is something that since I started taking CBD on a regular level, that has gone down so much. Like the rest of the cycle as well have just completely changed, which is amazing for people that have struggled with this since we're young, since we got our periods, basically. And again, like you say, I think not talking about what it can actually do, because a lot of people, how many people have endometriosis? I think it's like 10% of women or something, right?
It's 1 in 10 women.
It's horrible. It's huge.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And that's endometriosis, which is obviously very, very, very severe period pain. But if you just talk about women who suffer from menstrual cramps, that's 9 out of 10 women.
Yeah.
So that's almost, that's really almost everyone. So it's, yeah. But I agree with you. I mean, what happened with me, I mean, I'm not, I can only talk from my own experience, right? So I can only share my story. But what actually happened with me after I started taking, I started taking my own product, right? Because, because that's what I trust. I know it's really high quality and, I know what's in it. So I started taking that. And after a few months, I'm only sharing my own experience. I actually don't have period pains anymore. I just actually don't even quite get it. And I know that there is a pharmaceutical company right now who's even researching if certain cannabinoids can even cure endometriosis. It's a company called Ginica or something. But I think it's going to be a long time until they come out with an actual, pharmaceutical drug for it, because it takes like 20 years to do that kind of research.
Yeah, and I think they started like last year or something, right?
I think so, but I think it's great that that someone is actually spending money on research, because of course our issue is that we don't have any scientific research on if cannabis or certain cannabinoids or CBD can help with menstrual cramps, but we know that it helps with inflammation. We know it can help with pain. And, and that's kind of what causes menstrual cramps. So, and also we know that the reproductive system is one of the highest places for our endocannabinoid receptors. And also, we kind of know that there might be an imbalance with the CBD and in our bodies, which can cause this cramps as well. So there is a lot of things we do know, but there hasn't been really like any specific scientific research on like CBD and menstrual cramps.
Only like anecdotal for the moment, right?
Yes, exactly. it's just people talking about it, saying how it helps them, and that's what we have right now. But like I said, I mean, we know I'm saying CBD because that's obviously what I'm working with. But we know CBD helps with inflammation and potentially pain. So I would say, if you are suffering from something like this, just give it a go, just try it, there's no guarantee, of course, but I mean, at least, there's something you can try that very likely can help you. That's all I'm saying, really.
How did you then, so when your doctor friend in Denmark, like when he or she told you that, oh yeah, I have the CBD oil, do you want to try it? Like, did you already know what CBD oil was? Did you know that it's cannabis? Did you have what was your thoughts around it at that time?
I hadn't heard about it because it was quite new. And to be honest, even when I took some of it, when I was next to him, I was very scared. I thought, oh my God, am I gonna get high? I mean, it's just those beliefs we have, right? Because that's the beliefs we have. So no, I wasn't like super comfortable with it. But then, obviously then when it helped me so much, I just started looking into it more. But it wasn't, but yeah, I mean, now when I think about it, it comes from a plant, I'm all about, I mean, am I saying that everyone should just go around smoking weed? I'm not sure.
No,
I mean,
absolutely
probably
not.
No. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I'm not saying that's safe. That's something different. But I do feel that, I only really know about CBD. And obviously, I know THC, some of it can be helpful for cramps as well. But that's not legal, in Europe. So we can't use that. And also, a lot of the negative effects can come from THC, right? That's the stuff that I believe that some of the negative association with cannabis comes from. So I guess, yeah, you have to know what you're doing when you include THC in it. But yeah, I mean, CBD, I mean, that's legal pretty much, everywhere now. And we know that it has good effects on you and it doesn't really have any side effects and all that. So yeah, I mean, now I can't live without it. I mean, I take it every day.
Yeah. So what did your mom say, for example, when you're like, okay, so I'm starting a CBD company? It's cannabis.
I mean, again, I think, my mother might not, I mean, you look again, I mean, she knows that, I think she knows that, that I'm not stupid. And, if I believe in this, and obviously she knew I was suffering from these menstrual cramps. And I told her, I want to do a product that can help women, like I want to do this. So of course, I mean, how can you say no to that? I mean, so no, it was fine. It was fine. To be honest, I think now CBD is becoming so much more known. I haven't had any, I don't know, anyone criticizing me for it, etc. But yeah, I mean, look, I've always chosen controversial things, right? Like I went into a beauty pageant. Now I'm doing CBD, and also I'm talking about periods, because that's something, I care about. There's a topic I care about, in terms of, how we can find relief for menstrual cramps. So CBD, periods, beauty pageants, they're all a little bit controversial, but hey, that's where we are.
Those things, yes, it's controversial now, but in any case, you will be one of that is on the forefront, especially in Sweden, for example.
For now, it's legal to buy CBD in Sweden. So, like, my company is a UK-based company, so we can send CBD to Sweden, and as a consumer, you're totally. It's totally legal for you to take it. However, you can't be a Swedish company selling CBD in Sweden. That's not legal at the moment, but that will change, I'm sure. You can't be a Swedish company selling CBD in Sweden.
Why is that?
I mean, it doesn't make sense, but that will change, I'm sure. You can't be a Swedish company selling CBD I think they're just a little bit behind with it. I mean, I called, but that will change, I'm sure. The government body for medicine in Sweden. And, I had a discussion with them because there were a few companies in Sweden who wanted to buy my CBD and sell it in retail, right? So I got a little bit frustrated with the fact that we can't sell it in a retail shop in Sweden. But look, I mean, it will change for sure. It will change, but for now we can't, and I'm not sure why. I think they're just a little bit behind with it. But Swedish people can buy my product. They can buy it online, and we ship it the next day, and it takes about 3 days. So that's fine, and it's totally legal to consume it as long as it doesn't have THC, which our products doesn't have THC, because we have a broad spectrum CBD for that reason, because we really wanted to make sure we're on the right side of the law, not in a gray zone. You want to provide a product that is totally safe, that is not going to get anyone in trouble, and but still has all the benefits.
When I use cannabis, I made my use of THC so much lower. So for me, managing to take way much less than that and then add a lot of CBD, it has helped. It has helped so much. I still get all the feelings that I want, and I can just do the exact same thing that I would do without it. In Sweden, if I would do that, I could lose my job, I could lose my apartment, I could lose my kids if I had kids, driver's license and all of these things. And I can get into so much trouble if I'm using a tiny bit of THC and a lot of CBD. Like, just that mix for me can put me in so much troubles. And our social minister in Sweden, Lena Hallengren, she doesn't even want to make a review to see if decriminalization might be a good way, which is horrible. Just penalize whoever is using, then it's going to be less and less people trying it, which is not true. I mean, Sweden has the next high or the second highest death rate in the whole of Europe when it comes to drugs. I mean, that's just so crazy. And we have a zero tolerance. Like, how does that really work together? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know, to be honest. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, because of all these, these areas of legality or gray zones, that's why I just decided to stick to broad spectrum CBD, just to not have to worry about it. But I mean, of course, to be honest, I'm not sure I am an expert on weed in general, like, or cannabis. I mean, I guess you don't want anyone just taking any random cannabis, right? Because they can end up in a very bad place, right? So I guess maybe, I don't know if that's what the government is trying to protect people from just randomly smoking weed, right? And potentially ending up in a bad place. I'm not sure, but I think, for someone like you who knows what they're doing and, doing it in a very controlled way, I don't see an issue with that. But but I'm sure there are people who would, who wouldn't know what they're doing, and they might potentially take something with a lot of THC that that can cause them issues. I'm not sure, but I guess, I heard what you say, but I guess for me, it's just like, either you have a business, so you're on the side of the law, and you have a product that helps a lot of people, that works. So I've personally, that's my lane. Like I've just stuck to that, right? I mean, I think a full spectrum CBD could be nice, but it's just such a gray zone as well.
Yeah, for the moment, it's not worth for you to make that anyway, because if you can then only be limited to sell to some countries that accepts that, let's say, then it's, you lose maybe the whole of Sweden.
Yeah, it's not really legal, to be honest. It's not really legal, even though companies sell it online. It's not really legal. Also broad spectrum tastes a lot nicer, to be honest. I mean, look, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think for a business person, the best thing to do is just stay on the right side of the law, provide high quality products, and also people who buy them will never have to worry about if they're taking something that's not legal. Yeah, I get, that's my point of view. But then, I guess like cannabis as a subject, I think cannabis is a fascinating plant. I mean, of course, ours, but obviously our CBD comes from the hemp plant, which I guess is under the same family, right? But yeah, I mean, my God, I mean, how can you have, so many benefits from just one plant? I mean, the benefits that people get from taking CBD or other cannabinoids is just, I mean, what other plants can provide a human being with so many potential benefits? But I guess because it works with our endocannabinoid system, right, which is kind of like our nervous system or something like that. So it's just all of our bodies, and it just seems to go wherever it's needed. But yeah, it's just amazing how you can have this one plant extract that can do so many things for people.
Dear listeners, if you like what you hear, please check out my Patreon. The link is in the description here below. Only if you're able to, of course. Now, let's get back to our guest. It's really fascinating as well, and that's why it's so nice, and thankfully that there's so much research being done right now. Because I guess in 5-10 years from now, it's going to be so different from how it looks today. We're going to know so much more. We're going to have so much information about CBD, CBG, THC, and how we can maybe make plants that has, 3% THC, a lot more CBD, and that will help this certain percentage of people that might have, an endometriosis with a lot of inflammation, for example, and some people maybe need just a little bit, we can like mix and match so many things in the future, which is going to be so exciting.
We'll see. But however, I think they're going to get more strict on the THC content than they are now. I mean, I think for now, they were okay sort of with the full spectrum, but I think they're going to get more and more strict on making sure products don't have THC in them. So we'll see which way it goes.
In CBD, for sure. But as soon as I think it's going to be legalized, when they're going to legalize cannabis in general, so the THC as well. Because a lot of people need the THC. The THC has a lot of benefits as well. Now, why it's so strong is because it's illegal. That's the only reason why it's so strong, because they want to maximize, the percentage, the potency. So they make it super strong, so people only need to use a little bit. And yeah, and for me, that's just, I think it's so bad. It's so sad. It's as, back in the 20s in the US, when alcohol was prohibited for a few years, it was the same thing happening there. Like, yeah, you could only buy very hard, strong liquor. You couldn't find a beer or a glass of wine because it wasn't like worth to bring in like bottles of wine or bottles of beer. You needed like bottles of really, really strong alcohol, because otherwise it's harder to smuggle, So I think that's the real problem. That's why, I think it's super important that they regulate it. Because if you can regulate it and say that, no, we don't allow cannabis contents with more than 15% THC, for example. Like, I want it to be, I don't know if we can buy absinthe in Sweden.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah, so it's the same there. Like you put a limit of how much you're allowed to sell alcohol for. I think that's like, it's so, that's how it should be. It's like with anything, whatever it might be. You shouldn't have more than a certain amount of sugar maybe in a soda or whatever it might be, but there has to be like regulated and good limits. Well, and that's why I think that like CBD oil might be like very regulated on that, and it has to be that, because some people cannot have THC, like both for a lot of reasons. But I think in the future it will really be like, you will have CBD that is like pure, only like CBD. You will have some that is only THC, and will have a lot of mixes there in between, that I think can be very beneficial. But for the moment, we are so far away from that. I mean, it's years away. So yeah, but it's going to be interesting to see.
It's a very exciting space, and I think it's an industry that, that brings a lot of interesting people. And yeah, I mean, I love to see where everything is going and etc. It's just, we have to just be, on top of the news, etc. But I think, it's a very exciting space to be in, I'm still learning about everything as well. I don't know everything, but the more I learn, the more fascinated I am about it, and the more I've used it, the more I love it as well. You know what I mean? So it's we're very blessed to have access to at least CBD now. To help us with a lot of these things. Like anxiety or sleep or PMS or menstrual cramps or mood. Or I think especially women.
For men and women, it's so different. Like women can use it in so many ways, both recreationally, of course, but medicinally for so many things. I mean, men because we have something that will come back every month. It's going to be there, you won't miss her. She will come, So we will always have our periods that comes, it's not going to be an exception. While men, they just don't have that, they don't have the PMS almost like a whole week before period. And then you have a few days of period as well. I mean, this is like 10 days of horror for like you say, 9 out of 10 women, which is huge. It's huge.
It's a big part of our life, it's a big part of our life that, shouldn't just get wasted, by having to sit at home or, by not feeling good, etc. I mean, I can only speak for myself, but also I know a lot of women agree with me. Like for me, CBD is not just helpful for, I know like our CBD, or I can't say CBD in general, because I know also like obviously you might buy CBD that has like 1% CBD, or it might be a bad quality, or it might be full of contaminants. I don't know, but so I would prefer to say like our CBD. I know like for me and for a lot of women that use it, it really helps with the mood during when you have PMS. It really helps with obviously sleep. Can be tricky as well while you're on your period, or like for me, like I just feel more balanced when I take it. Like sometimes when you have your PMS, you just feel unbalanced, like you just don't feel like yourself. So when I take CBD, like I just feel back more balanced again, like I feel back to myself. And so it definitely helps with mood a lot as well, for me anyway, and for a lot of women I know, and that's a big one.
Yes, definitely.
So, and of course, like, I have some friends or customers who suffer a lot from anxiety, and, now when they take CBD, this really changed their life as well in that way. So, I mean, people get different benefits from it depending what you're suffering with, right? But, look, I think it's just good to talk about it, like, I mean, especially, personally, I think the menstrual cramps and the PMS, etc., because like I said, it's just an issue I care about, because it's obviously something I've had to suffer with as well. And I just think women should know that there can be relief. There is relief to be found out there, because it can really feel like a hopeless situation when you're in it, and you feel like you're gonna struggle with this for the rest of your life, etc. And you fear every month when your period is coming, but there are things that can be done, and I think incorporating a really high quality, high strength CBD in your routine or in your management of that can really be a game changer.
Do you have any male customers?
I actually do. I mean, of course, my niche is really to provide like CBD and specific CBD formulations for women. But we do have some male customers, and I mean, they love the CBD, and I guess they trust the quality, and it's worked for them, so they stick with it. So we do have a few men as well, yeah, and they're very welcome, of course.
Yes.
To
You
buy
don't
our
have
CBD
to have
and to enjoy
period.
it.
Exactly. You don't have to bleed.
No, because because we have one product that's specifically for like PMS and menstrual cramps, but then we also just have like a broad spectrum CBD that anyone can take for general well-being, etc. So that's the one the men buy. It's called Clear. It's the Clear CBD. So so that's the one they can enjoy. And yeah, I mean, I love hearing men give us feedback about the product as well and saying how it works for them. I think it's just one of these things that can work for everybody. But I just chose to have a niche in the industry, because I think that's what you need. It's just too many CBD companies out there. But I'm someone that really am passionate about women's natural health, so it just made sense to me to focus more on that.
How do you think that people should move on when they're looking for a CBD company? Because there's so many scams out there. Like there's so many scammy companies that, like you say, they say that they have 15% CBD, and then in the end, some of them doesn't even have CBD in them when they actually test. That is horrible.
And they're so expensive.
Yes.
You pay because CBD is expensive. So yeah, it's really a minefield out there as a consumer. So is your question like, how would you know if you're buying a good quality CBD?
How should they verify if it's a good CBD or like what are the things that they should look for when they go in and look for a brand? So let's say whether it's yours or someone else, like what should they look for on, let's say, the website or the description and stuff? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think even though it is tricky for consumer, but there are certain things you can do. Like you can ask for third-party lab reports. I think that's very important because, I mean, ultimately, that's the only way you're going to know what's in the CBD, if you can actually read the lab reports, because it will tell you, as you know, obviously, but it will tell you the percentage of the CBD. It will tell you if it has any contaminants in there, stuff you really don't want to ingest in your body, like heavy metals and pesticides and all sorts of things. So the only way to know is to read a third-party lab report. And if a company selling CBD doesn't want to provide that, then I would really not buy the CBD, because there's something really...
Then it's a red flag.
It's really a red flag, and there's no need to buy from a company like that when there's so many out there selling the good stuff. So just about looking at a third-party lab report, you want it to be tested by a lab that has, high standards in terms of the testing, right? So we use Eurofins, and they're basically like the best, or not one of the best, because there are also some labs out there who are not reliable. So I know it sounds very confusing, and it is actually, but that would be my best bet. Like go and ask for a third-party lab report, and make sure it's from a reputable lab testing company like Eurofins or something, or something in that kind of standard. Like when I set out to start the company, I only wanted to, of course, to like sell the highest quality CBD, because it's my name. I want to be proud of it. I want people to really benefit from it. But I also took the stance that I only wanted to sell like a high strength CBD, so like 15%, because I feel like that's another thing, as a consumer, you have to look for like what kind of strength are you buying, because it can be confusing, like I said, when you see, oh, but this product is like 20 pounds and let's say our product is 75 pounds, so why should I buy the more expensive one? But of course it depends on the quality and the strength of the CBD that's in there, and I think some people might not know about that. So so you need to make sure, I think, to have a decent strength in your CBD. So I took the stance that I only wanted to sell a product that actually will work for people. So we only sell 15% CBD.
You have two oils or
two products at the moment. One is just like a broad spectrum 15% CBD. The other one is the Women's Relief product, which is also a 15% broad spectrum CBD, but we also added in herbs and terpenes in there that will benefit you more when you take it for menstrual cramps. So that's kind of but yeah, I mean, you basically make sure they're transparent, obviously, in with their lab reports, etc. That's really the only way that you can know what's in the product.
Oh, I definitely agree. I'm very happy that you say that, because I think it's super important that if I want to, at least maybe the first time people try CBD, like they're like, okay, so let's try out this one. Let's say Camilla Organics or whatever it might be, but let's say yours. Like, ask for it. Don't be ashamed to ask. Like, oh, can you please send through as well the third-party lab report for this one? And then after that, you will have at least a trust for this company, because one, most of the companies will say, yes, of course, no problem. If they don't say, yes, of course, no problem, like we said, it's a red flag. Like, okay, why can you not? You don't have to send a physical paper. Just send me a photo of it, whatever it might be, like some kind of proof. And then from there on, at least you will see what kind of the company's ethics as well, how they want to treat their clients, I guess.
Yeah, and I think consumers are becoming a little bit more aware, a little bit more savvy. I mean, a lot of our consumers, they ask us for a third-party lab report, and they should. Why should you spend your money to buy something you don't know is good quality, or the strength, of CBD that you want to know. Basically, you want to know that what you're buying is a high quality, and that it's pure, so it doesn't have contaminants, and that it also has the strength that it says on the bottle. That's what you want to know, basically. So yeah, you need to just look at the lab reports, basically, and yeah.
It was really nice to talk to you, and I will add your website and your Instagram handle in the description of the podcast, of course, so they can go in and check you out.
That would be great, and thank you so much for having me to let me share my story. And yeah, please connect with our Instagram, and we can all stay in touch that way.
Oh, so nice. Have fun today, and have a really nice weekend, babe.
You too. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe to my social channels and rate this podcast. And if you would like to support me a little bit extra, it would really mean the world to me. So check out my Patreon profile that I linked in the episode description. It's all thanks to your support that I can continue talking, writing, recording, and making more cannabis content for you and our amazing community. Have an awesome day and lots of love.